I'm in the city of Oxford at Blackwell's, one of the oldest bookstores in this university town. And we're here for the launch of the first novel of a French Arab writer, Karim Miske. The novel is Arab Jazz. Now, what makes this book very interesting is that it was written, of course, over a year ago, but the areas that Karim writes about are the areas which the whole world has been reading about. It's the area where Arabs live and Jews live, mixed areas, Arab areas, and the novel has, without meaning to, become incredibly topical. Karim, tell me, you were basically involved in films when we first established contact years ago, and then you decided you wanted to write a novel. So what was the transition?
Well, I've been directing documentary films for 25 years now, but I think I've always wanted to write. I could even say that I've always knew that I would write someday and publish at least one novel or several, hopefully. One day I began writing a paragraph about a guy named Ahmed, a strange guy living in the 19th arrondissement of Paris, and then, I don't know, it began to flow. In the story, you've got lots of Jews and Muslims, but they're all coming from the same countries. They're all coming from North Africa, meaning all coming from former French colonies, where they were divided. I mean, they were not united before because there were, you know, inequalities in the Islamic system. But let's say that the colonization has widened the gap between them, and that part of the story, the difficulties also happening today in France between these two populations, is coming from this colonial history. So, but it was, yeah, I had fun with this idea that, you know, Arab Jews, Arab Muslims living in the same place, seeing themselves as enemies, but also at the same time sharing so much. You know, you share even with the one you seem to dislike or to hate because he's a kind of brother or cousin. It's like inside a family.
This, you know, when I first read the novel, I of course liked it very much. But it could have been a novel completely on its own, yet you put it in the crime genre. So it could also be read as a crime novel. I mean, I could read it as a non-crime novel, and in fact, for most of it, I did. But what made you go in that direction?
I mean, I've always been reading crime novels, so when I began writing a novel, I think it was natural to me, you know, to write that way. I had to have a murder and to try to solve it. Then I just tried, or maybe not tried consciously, but to twist it, you know, because it's not exactly a classical genre novel.
No, it works very well on that front. And also you get a feeling here, like, you know, if you see some French serials, like Spiral, the French Arabs are either criminals or cops.
Yeah.
There's nothing in between.
Yeah.
Okay, they're trying to show that there are different kinds, but there are only two types. Whereas in this novel, there are different types, of course, and the women are very strong.
The society is not looking at them in the same way it looks at men. I mean, Arab men, especially young men, boys or young men in France,
are seen as a threat.
Yeah, they're seen as a threat, exactly, potential criminals, I mean, or actual criminals. So it's sometimes very difficult to resist this. I mean, because the simplest thing to do if you are a young Arab or a young black in France, you're seen as the bad guy. You're going to be the bad guy, you know. But if you see in the prisons in France. We don't have, ethnic or religious statistics in France. It's forbidden by the law, so we cannot know. But the percentage of Muslim prisoners is heavy, really heavy.
But we have no statistics.
No, it's forbidden.
Well, here they could learn from the United States, because in the incarceration regime in the United States, we know that the overwhelming majority are African American kids, basically.
And I think now the majority, or the overwhelming majority in France, is French Arabs.
So when the Charlie Hebdo affair erupted in France, and some people who had already read your novel must have found some of the things quite familiar.
Yeah, some people wrote to me on Facebook, The first one told me, but weren't you inspired by this group? I mean, the Salafis that are in Arab jazz, are not they the same? And they are the same, actually, which of course I could not predict when I was writing the book. So yeah, and then the same guy, he told me one thing that was really nice, because when you write books, you like this sort of things to happen. He told me, when I want to explain to my mom how these youngsters are radicalized, become extremists, I think about Arab jazz and I give the examples from Arab jazz. So
well,
at least there is a utility.
These kids heavily, into drugs and the easy life and unemployed and hanging around, suddenly meet up with Salafis and become fundamentalists.
And they're not all unemployed, by the way. In the Charlie Hebdo case, it was the case. But if you, well, in my novel, I think they work like in computer or something.
Yes.
But you have many. It's very interesting, because even if you go back to 9/11,
they were all educated
people. So it can take all kind of people. I mean, because now they say, oh, the problem is Islam. The problem is not Islam. Islam is a symptom. It's not the disease. The disease, it's emptiness. It's something that has to do with modernity, with our modern society, and how do you live in the society where, I don't know, God is dead, and so many things that we know since a long time, but we still don't have a solution. But it's easier to say that there is one religion that is responsible for this.
Well, I mean, what we are witnessing in your country, France, is secular fundamentalism of an incredible sort. Actually ramming it down people's throats and not realizing that if you do it in this way, there will be an even greater reaction.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy to me.
But there is a lack of intelligence. But then we have to wait to see what is going to happen, because it's true that it's a shock. I mean, so I guess here after also the
July the 7th.
Yeah,
it's very similar.
Then the question is, afterwards, what is going to happen? Is the society? How are people going to contemplate this and to try to think in a different way? I'm not very optimistic, but I'm not totally pessimistic.
So Karim, as you were watching, because you live not far from the Charlie Hebdo offices, so this was going on, and then characters, it seemed, who you had already written in your fiction, suddenly became real, and it must have been a strange feeling for you.
It was very, very strange, because I was watching TV, and then I heard, oh, the terrorists crashed their car in Place du Colonel Fabien, which is funny because it's just in front of the Communist Party. And then they stole another car, and then we lost them at Porte de Pantin, one of where you go through to go outside of Paris, the ring. And it was exactly the territory of Arab jazz, of my novel. So I knew the streets they have to take. And then I maybe the day after or the same day, I don't remember, we learned that they belonged to a small terrorist cell or jihadi cell that was named the cellules des buttes Chaumont or the Iraqis of the butte Chaumont, because in the early years 2000, between like 2004 or 5, they a self-proclaimed imam of the 19th arrondissement sent youngsters to Iraq, and most of them died there against the Americans, or in the suicide bombings, or in the Battle of Fallujah.
Yes.
Okay, and this imam was the one who inspired me, the imam who is in Arab Jazz, although the story is completely different. There are no jihadis, it's not linked to Iraq, it's a different story. But the character, I took it from the reality, and I took it from this reality, and now this reality was back. So yeah, for a novelist, it's a strange feeling, you know, you are lost between fiction and reality.
Exactly. Karim, thanks very much. Nice talking to you, and best of luck.
Thank you.